Pezzin and I'm the owner of Sentience Personal Training, and today we're talking about how to make healthy choices when we're eating out at dinner, because that can be a pretty tricky thing when we're eating out. And we've got someone to help us out today, so I introduce to you Karen Moad. She's the CEO of Rivers of Yarrambat. Thank you for helping us out today, Karen.
Oh, Serge, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. It's a great topic to be talking about.
Yeah, a topic that lots of people need lots of advice on, so
Absolutely.
hopefully we can get some good answers for them today. Now, the first question that we're going to ask Karen to help us out with is basically when you are eating out at dinner, what kind of changes can you make to the meal and what sorts of things do you need to take into consideration before you do ask some variations of your meal, Karen?
The first thing to consider is actually where you're eating out. So for me, have a think about the menu, the kind of place that you're going, and whether they have a focus on healthy eating or variations of the menu to start off with.
Because that can vary at some restaurants, can it?
It varies a lot. At Rivers, our chefs have devised a menu that we're trying to cater for a wide range of personal tastes, as well as considering people's dietary requirements or their needs, because they're really broad and it's really important.
Okay, and so what sorts of things can people ask for if the chef is happy to make some modifications?
There's lots of things you can ask for. I guess some of the critical components are think about how busy the venue is.
Will that vary, will it?
It does vary, and when the chefs are under the pump, it's less likely that they may be willing to make variations. However, there's lots of things you can ask for. Something as simple as having no butter, or maybe some dressings or things like that on the side. They're really easy asks to start off with.
Yep. And in terms of preparation of certain foods, can you ask for things that would maybe be grilled as opposed to fried?
Yeah, you definitely can. So, there are meals that are going to be, pan fried, but perhaps you can ask, to have those, grilled instead. And they're the sorts of things which are quite easy for the kitchen to do. Once again, it's just got to come down to time.
Okay. Okay, so Karen, the other thing that I know when I'm at a restaurant, I feel a bit uncomfortable in terms of what I can ask for, and I don't want to be too painful as a client of the restaurant. So what can you ask for? What sort of changes? Or are the chefs happy?
I think the best thing to do is just to ask. So, your wait staff are going to, guide you as to what's possible and what's not. And if they're not sure, they're going to ask the chefs, and that way then the chefs are going to guide, you in terms of, what is appropriate, what can be done. The thing to consider also is that some of the variations that you ask for might actually change the dish, and that's something that the chefs can be a bit wary about, and that's something that a lot of people won't think about. So if the chefs have created a meal and all of a sudden you're taking something away from it, it's going to upset how their dish is meant to present, how it's meant to taste, and sometimes they can be a bit funny about that. But the key here is just to ask.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I would never have thought of that. I'm too busy thinking about my employee needs as opposed to the creation that the chefs have put together for us. So that's a really interesting point. So that's really good information. So
that's their profession. That's what they do. Sometimes the reason why they can be touchy is because it's upsetting, their dish.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I guess if we are looking at really making the healthier choices, that will also depend on where we go.
Definitely.
So I think it really starts with choosing where you're going to eat out.
Absolutely, and just be mindful of, what you're asking people for.
Excellent. Now we know what we can ask for. I guess the next question I have is, what are the top 3 things that you tell people to avoid completely if they're trying to eat healthy and improve their health and reduce some weight?
Well, I guess I always think of the healthy pyramid. So perhaps, keep that in mind. Think about avoiding, fried, fatty foods. That's obviously a given. And, think about things like creamy dressings or sauces. They're good things to avoid.
So what can we do instead of a creamy sauce?
I think you can do like a light dressing. It's amazing how many different dressings and other things that restaurants or cafes will have.
Also tomato-based?
Definitely. Go to be tomato-based, and there are lots of other healthy things that from other dishes you may be able to substitute and use for instead, and kitchens are quite happy to do that.
Oh, fantastic. That's a good idea. I never would have thought about that.
Yeah, so there's quite a few things. Anything else to avoid is probably, think about, meats that have, more fat around them. try and keep to things that are trim, and think about, you know, your carbohydrate, how much you're taking in, and what you perhaps can avoid.
Yeah, and there's different ways that carbohydrates can sneak in.
Definitely.
Having an entree that might have some breads and dips in it, or things like that. So, no, that's excellent.
Terrific.
And I guess the next question is always going to be with people is, what can we do to make desserts healthy? Because I know that people are always wanting to have some form of dessert, and we get people to avoid it, but if we are going to make our desserts healthier, what sorts of things can we do?
Well, Snezana, I love dessert, so I would never say, you know, to avoid dessert. That's just the wrong thing. It's amazing
people
how
are loving you at the moment, Karen.
I won't tell them to have chocolate pudding. There's lots of things you can have for a healthy alternative. I must say, on Rivers' current menu, we have a dessert that's inspired by you, Snez, so you may not know that, but you actually served me a couple of years ago a delicious pear and polenta slice. And we've created that into a dessert for this menu, which has only been running for a few weeks. And as you know, it's low in fat, it's low in sugar, and we serve it with a honey and cinnamon yogurt. So there's some amazing things you can have, but generally think about things like having something without the cream or ice cream, and perhaps asking to have, you know, yogurt instead. Or you might want to think about an alternative instead of maybe, you know, that decadent chocolate pudding. What about having a look at something like a healthy fruit frappe? So it's just fresh fruit, it's blended with pure apple juice, and that can be a really nice way to finish off, to have something sweet, but you know, that's really healthy and good for you.
I really like the idea of asking for yogurt. I would never have thought to have asked for yogurt instead of the ice cream component if there's an ice cream and fruit.
Definitely.
That's a really, really great idea.
Yeah, and that's something that's really easy for the kitchen to do. It's no problem, and something that, you know, I honestly believe that all kitchens should be able to do.
Excellent. Now, because you're being told by Karen that you can have the desserts, I'm going to add on that you just need to make sure that you eat your meal so that there's enough room for dessert.
Absolutely.
I guess. So I think that's the halfway mark between you and me at the moment.
You can always find room, Snez.
Is there anything else, Karen, that you wanted to share with us today?
Look, I don't think so. At the end of the day, it's great to be able to, you know, to talk to everyone about this. You know, wish everybody fantastic time for the challenge, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Karen, and hopefully you'll get to see everyone having that polenta and pear dessert soon.
Absolutely.